Century ago, it was an oasis, a vacation destination for ruthless members of the criminal underworld.
Many mobsters, including Al Capone, spent leisure time in Benton Harbor and St. Joseph while doing their best to keep business affairs to a minimum.
Most associate the gangster area with Chicago, that's true, but fact is, Southwest Michigan was a criminal hotbed for these hitmen.
WZZM-13's Brent Ashcroft shows us why Berrien County will forever be burned into the mafia map in this fascinating installment of Our Michigan Life.
It must have been quite a spectacle to see Capone and his fleet of black sedans rolling up to the Vincent and Whitcomb hotels in downtown Benton Harbor and St. Joseph. Gangsters donning their fedoras, smoking their stogies. The archives of the era tell us these gangsters were nothing less than gentlemanly and engaging whenever they visited. But all that changed one cold December night. Events unfolded, identities unraveled, and items were uncovered, linking Michigan's version of the Twin Cities to the most significant gangster incident in the history of American organized crime. It was a period in America when prosperity seemed to be sweeping the land.
There was a certain allure from that time.
Born from the bitterness of battle.
The great war to end all wars had ended.
It was the Roaring 20s.
Things were good.
An era of excess jazz, alcohol, and gangster violence.
They were ruthless.
When the Volstead Act was passed in 1920,
Alcohol was something that people wanted, and no law was going to prevent them from having it.
spirits were banned. Corruption began to overflow in big cities like Chicago. Gangsters turned prohibition into profit.
You controlled the turf, you controlled the business. You controlled the business, you made lots of money.
The competition was sometimes fatal.
These gangsters were killers, and they killed every day.
It would eventually spill onto the shores and into the streets of St. Joseph and Benton Harbor, Michigan.
They were all about relaxing, enjoying the amenities of the area.
A known vacation spot for Al Capone and his associates.
And this was their playground.
It would become more than just a getaway for one gangster, Fred "Killer" Burke, who escaped Chicago but never escaped his past.
This was overkill. This was something much more than just a couple of random killings.
February 14th, 1929.
This was about two rival gangs, the North Side and the South Side gang of Chicago.
Al Capone and Bugs Moran.
Witnesses said a police car drives up, two police officers get out. They go in the front door, 2122 North Clark Street.
Capone's hitmen.
They thought they saw Bugs Moran, but it wasn't him, it was someone else.
This booze battle escalated.
These guys are lined up
Into a bloodbath. 7 men slaughtered.
The volume of the bullets and the volumes of the shell casings later on from the scene, the evidence scene, tells us that it had to have been 2 Thompson submachine guns.
One of the early suspects was Burke, but he was nowhere to be found. Until December 14th, 1929.
He's here. He's in St. Joseph, Michigan. He's going by the name of Fred Dane.
One of the most wanted men in America made a mistake.
He's been drinking real heavy. And as he's traveling down the road,
Burke gets into a car accident with a man named Forrest Cool.
Forrest allegedly says, hey, you know, you can give me some money for the damages to my vehicle.
He asked Cool to follow him into town.
Burke must have sped up or made a sharp turn or something because he lost Forrest Cool.
As Cool drives, he sees a police officer, Charles Skelly, and tells him about the accident.
Lo and behold, who drives through the intersection? Fred Burke. Skelly hops on Forrest Cool's running board. He says, follow it.
The chase stops at the corner of Broad and Main, where Skelly approached Burke's car and said,
you need to pull over, I gotta talk to you. At that time, the window rolls down. Burke produces a Colt 45, shoots Skelly twice in the chest, and a third time as he's falling in the intersection, he hits him with a third round in the back.
Burke sped off.
Being drunk, he fails to negotiate the last little curve in the road.
He crashed his car and fled. Inside the wreck, deputies found a Stevensville address, then rushed over to Burke's bungalow. Once inside, they discovered this: the motherlode of all arsenals.
2 Thompson submachine guns, sawed-off shotgun, 2 rifles, a couple of handguns, bulletproof vests, bags and bags of ammo.
At that moment,
And Burke became public enemy number 1.
wanted in Michigan for the murder of Officer Scally, and still wanted as a principal suspect by Chicago police.
People were looking for him from everywhere.
In 1931, authorities finally captured Burke in Green City, Missouri. He was sent back to St. Joseph, where he was tried and convicted of Charles Scally's murder.
One of the statements that he said before he went actually in was he said that he was sorry that he killed that young boy. And that was the only confession that he ever made.
He spent 9 years in Marquette Prison before he died in 1940.
The cemetery buried him under the name of Thomas Camp.
Which is his true identity.
Still to this day, no one was ever charged and convicted for the St. Valentine's Day Massacre.
Nearly a century later, the excesses of an era have washed away. But some remnants remain.
These 2 guns are by far the most famous weapons in the United States, probably even the world.
The 2 Thompsons still exist.
They are always going to be considered evidence in a crime,
Sitting in lockup at the Berrien County Sheriff's Department.
so they will never be able to be sold.
Forever linking Southwest Michigan
If they ever are taken off of the books as evidence, they would have to be destroyed.
to the longest unsolved crime in American history. The 2 Thompson guns were brought to Chicago soon after they were confiscated. Police wanted to see if they were the ones used in the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. A budding scientist named Calvin Goddard would use a new method called ballistic forensics to find out. He test-fired the 2 guns, then matched the ejector marks on the shell casings to the casings found at the scene of the massacre. Sure enough, the etchings were identical. The science of ballistic forensics immediately springboarded and became a trusted tool by law enforcement. It remains a major part of detective work today. The 2 Thompsons are not the only items that still exist from Michigan's connection to the gangster era. So does the house where the guns were confiscated from. That's right, Fred Burke's bungalow is still standing. If you're ever traveling along the 4,000 block of Red Arrow Highway in Stevensville, Michigan, you'll see it. These days it's home to a Coldwell real estate company. Believe me, the employees know they work inside a structure that's a part of gangster history. If you ever stop in, maybe they'll show you the closet where the 2 Thompsons were found. If you want to learn more about Michigan's gangster connection, there is no better source than this book I'm holding right here in my hand. It's called A Killing in Capone's Playground, authored by historian Chris Lyon, who was just featured in the piece you just saw. It is a fascinating read. We currently have a full web story posted with much more information and images on WZZM13.com, so give that a click, guys.
Absolutely fascinating, riveting, great story, Brent.
It is. It's the history you don't know that we have here in West Michigan.
You never know what you're going to learn.